And the first map is going to be Daybreak. Both players do get a chance to veto one of the maps that they don't want to play on. They have the starting map, and after that it will be loser's choice. So we're going to kick things off with Daybreak, of course a map that I'm sure a lot of you know very well. It's a very popular tournament map, and there's a lot of space to kind of develop your own game plan. And we're always going to wait and see whether the players will abide by a kind of 15 minutes no rush tactic, which of course is not only being played at bronze level, but also sometimes at Grandmaster, kind of a gentleman's agreement to play a bit longer game.
Here we go.
Welcome to IPL5 Daybreak.
Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Daybreak, our first map of the day. And our first Zerg contestant to grace the main stage on IPL Day 2. He is in the red trunks playing Zerg to the northeast of Daybreak. His name is...
TSL Symbol.
He has a lot to prove in this matchup and has been delighting foreign fans for quite some time now. Let's see if he can do a repeat performance against perhaps his toughest challenger yet. Very much a possibility because his opponent in the southwest position in the blue trunks playing Terran, the IPL4 champion, it is...
Fnatic Raid Call aLive.
So it does look like aLive is going to open things up with a command center first, which of course does not mean that he won't necessarily rush for the first 15 minutes, but it kind of takes away that nuance, that just slight possibility that somewhere on the map are two secret proxy barracks. So it won't be any attack very early on for him. He wants to take that economic lead, and of course Symbol is no different, also opening up with a hatchery first.
Yeah, he's going for the CC wall-off strategy, which I do very much like because it's CC first, which is inherently risky, but it's a little safer because if there's any rush coming, he can then wall off using the command center. Doesn't have to necessarily cancel it if an early couple of Zerglings come into his natural. Symbol with a narrow lead in the poll right now. If you wish to vote, then by all means head over to IGN.com and vote on who you think will be winning this matchup. But it's actually one of the ugliest wall-offs I've ever seen, but it is super effective. You can't really argue with it. It's absolutely impossible to break down in the early stages and really, really smart. In the meantime, Symbol's gone hatchery, then pull, and he's also grabbed gas pretty early on.
Yeah, gets that speed upgrade to be able to make those speed Zerglings. Of course, there's really only two disadvantages for Terran to go command center first, and of course the advantages is better economy.
Yeah.
The two disadvantages is like when Zerg does a very early spawning pool, like a spawning pool off of 6, 7 or 8 drones, and then they get Zerglings into your base, and that is why you don't see a Terran making that command center at the natural base, but going for that wall off. And of course the other disadvantage is that Terran cannot apply any very, very early pressure.
And it's interesting, actually, because of aLive's games, I have seen a lot of early pressure from him, but Daybreak is a map where you really want to be focusing on your macro, and the rush distance being so long makes things very, very awkward. Now, as you can see, Symbol does not have a huge amount of accolades to his name. He performed very well indeed in the MLG Spring Arena 2. He did fall down to Violet, who was, of course, also beasting it up in this tournament, and he was the second place finalist in Iron Squid. And that's really all he's done up to this point. So getting a big result in another foreign tournament for him would be an absolutely wonderful thing.
Yeah, the TSL Zerg's eyes are really pointed outwards towards the world. They're not just looking at Korean events. A lot of them are playing on the European and the North American ladder, playing in various online tournaments, just getting that playing experience, really finding out how not just their Korean adversaries play, but also their foreign adversaries. And they love to play in foreign tournaments, so I can only imagine what it would mean for Symbol to finish highly in this tournament.
Well, he's certainly off to a good start, especially taking down MC. Loses the Overlord, and aLive with a nice piece of reaction time there, which we would expect from him. He's a very fast player, highly aggressive kind of player. As you can see, little bit more information about Symbol, and it's good. You should know as much as you possibly can about this guy, because myself and Apollo hyped him up so much during Iron Squid, saying this is the guy to watch, this is the Zerg to watch, and perhaps he's been eclipsed in the last couple of months by his teammate Hyun, but I would never ever underestimate him. He always pulls out some very interesting surprises. Now in the meantime, let's go and have a look at some tech. What we're seeing here appears to be Hellion Banshee. Pretty standard here from aLive, also with the bunker placement that every Terran seems to favor in this particular map as well. In the meantime, he's going to have to be going up against both Roach and Baneling. And Roach Baneling is, of course, fine against Hellion, but if you're doing that, you're delaying the notion of getting a lot of extra queens, you're delaying getting out Spore Crawlers and Evolution Chambers, and he is going to get aggressive here. There's no other reason why, and this actually looks like it very well could be just a Roach Baneling all-in.
Yeah, definitely, John. It's very unusual for Zerg to have 4 or 3 gases this early on. Actually, he has only 2 gases, but because he started mining from that first gas so early, he's able to get the gas to make a whole bunch of Roaches. He will then follow it up with more Zerglings because they can catch up with that greater speed, and he will be making Banelings very close to aLive's base. So he is making drones behind this. He's not going to say it's either a win now or nothing. The Hellions will see the Roaches. So very important scouting information, which probably means that aLive is going to keep that Banshee at home. There we go. Going to try to go for an intersection course against the Roaches. And usually what you will see is that the Hellions either try to backstab the Zerglings and buy time that way, or just will go home and get repaired. So aLive, he already has that bunker finished. It's nice that he saw this early, but it's still a very dangerous attack. Designed to do damage and then transition to a normal game.
Absolutely, and we'll see if he can actually make that work. He's already done indirect economic damage there. Interesting that he would pop the Banelings underneath the Banshee. No target fire going down on that right now. Roach is taking some significant damage. And at the moment, are we actually going to see those Banelings connect? It doesn't look like it. Good focus fires coming down here from aLive, but he's going for it. One Baneling's pop, there's another one remaining there. Can he actually make it count? It was reasonable, but not amazing. I have to wonder if this attack's done enough damage, killing 8 workers and delaying mining time for quite some time. And the indirect effect, meaning that this Hellion Banshee attack is actually going to hit a lot later because it was forced into a defensive posture and some of the Hellions were picked off.
Yeah, but I think that was about as good as aLive wished that could possibly go. He's got double engineering bay, he's got triple command centers, soon to be orbitals, and he only lost about 8 SCVs.
Yeah, 8 workers is not bad against a Roach Bane attack that early on. He defended that really well.
And now it's his turn to come back with the Hellions and the Banshees. So Symbol had to make that Spore Crawler. He didn't have a whole lot of queens yet, and he also didn't have tier 2 yet. He's only about 80% with his lair. And most importantly of all, normally now we'd be seeing a 3rd hatchery already for Symbol, and that is not the case at that 3rd base.
Yeah, unexpectedly poor attack from Symbol. He has been known to throw these things into his play. I've seen him play on Daybreak a number of times, and I've never seen him play the same way twice. He's got a lot of different build orders up his sleeve, and he'll pull out some very unusual things if he feels like it'll work. But that initial attack did not pay off for him, and as a result, he's most assuredly behind. He's going to go for a macro hatch and a 3rd hatchery. Now he's got to try and hold that 3rd hatchery against the Banshee aggression, hold on long enough to get Infestors out.
Yeah, and Symbol is moving his chess pieces into place as he's choosing exactly what he's going to be doing this game. He will choose to research Burrow, which is of course very useful for queens when they're defending against harassment. They can burrow and save themselves. And he's also getting that speed upgrade for Banelings, as well as 1/1 upgrades and an infestation pit.
In the meantime, what do we have from aLive? He's going for that heavy barracks play. Looks like we're going to be seeing Marine Tank coming from him. Nothing out of the ordinary there. His positioning is always very good indeed. So this should work out pretty well, especially now that the Zerg is expanded to 3 bases. He can successfully take this one at the front, and then once he's cleared up that, he can get another base behind that, and the siege tank line will help to protect it.
Yeah, this is a very interesting development by in the way that Terrans have been playing this matchup, choosing to go for the somewhat more exposed build. But when you look at it, at the natural base, he has been able to make supply depots, walling off the 3rd location from the 2nd, so he can close off that avenue of attack, and then he can just rally all his units here to the middle and create that focal point where he tries to funnel the Zerg forces into his own defensive line. Attacking your own tank is not very good.
He was actually just testing the integrity of the armor. It turns out that one had a manufacturing defect.
Everything is hand tested here in aLive's army.
It absolutely is. Unfortunately, it probably won't work out so well. I admire his customer service, but honestly, Symbol isn't really going to care so much for that. He's got 14 speed banelings now on the map and is looking to do some damage. And actually, after losing one tank, that's a pretty big deal. He would have had 2 tanks to protect that frontal base. He just gunned down one of his own tanks for no apparent reason. And now he's actually vulnerable to speed banelings. And there it is, the classic Symbol maneuver. Burrowed banelings on Daybreak. Does this every single time against Terran. And it's usually very effective.
Yeah, I'm really loving how early he's doing this. At the lead time mark, he already has 4 places with burrowed banelings. 3 banelings might be found by the Hellions. Yes, they are. They get burrowed, so it will cost 1 more scan for aLive.
Nah, he's going to get sneaky.
Why would he put a Hellion on top of it?
The reason he did that, he targeted the Hellion in order to hit him with the splash AoE. It killed the Hellion, but he'd rather do that than actually trade a scan for it. He didn't get both banelings though, so that was a little bit unfortunate. Nice little trick, seen it every now and again. Usually not against banelings, usually against creep tumors. Hello, that's a good place to hit. The question is, does Symbol want to invest on that? It is only a few Hellions. Maybe he wants to save it for something more meaningful. And now we've got Lings and Roaches all over the map. A drop is looking to go around to the third. Banshee harassment has continued throughout this time. It hasn't really done a huge amount of damage, and that Banshee is going to be pushed away by the Queen. So things are starting to get really interesting. Tank count is lower than it should be at this stage. A nice little grab for the Infestors. He's going to drop down and get eliminated almost immediately. Does he want to spend that many fungals? Yes, he really, really does. Doesn't want that drop anywhere near him.
Yeah, really nice side benefit there for Symbol that he sees that Medivac movement with his burrowed banelings, unbeknownst to aLive, really. aLive hasn't upgraded 1 attack upgrade yet for his tanks. He will try to hit a 2-2 timing, however, though. And now we're going to see whether this is going to work out.
Star Sense is tingling. aLive's having none of that. Absolutely not.
Very useful scan. Only lost a handful of units there, probably about 3 or so. And now aLive has started to go for Marauders, identifying that his opponent is on just a ground-based army so far, so he can mix that in.
I mean, it comes down to the fact that he's seeing a lot of Ling Baneling on the map. The chances are, if he's gone for Hive Tech, he's probably going Ultralisk, and that's absolutely fine against this Marine tank build. But since he's already putting Marauders into the mix, that makes things very interesting. I have to wonder if Symbol's going to identify the fact that Marauders are coming in and then do a quick tech switch into a situation where his opponent can't deal with it. We will find out shortly. In the meantime, we've got this siege up here and an attempt to break their way through, and 2-2 Lings do slaughter supply depots pretty well. Concussive Shell is about to complete. No, Symbol, I don't think that's going to work out so well for you. This might, however. Nice surround, takes down the tank quite nicely before it can target fire down the Banelings and the Infestors. But there's a lot of Marines on the map here, and Ling Infestor is not going to be enough to beat this yet.
Yeah, a number of SCVs have been killed, about 6 or so, but aLive has pulled the majority of it. Of course, Symbol, he's just buying time. His army looks so small, and aLive must know that there is this big tier 3 surge of units coming in. And his read was perfect, by the way. Ultralisks are being made, 4 Ultras are coming out, but will aLive give him that time that Symbol needs? He's just trying to buy time here, sharking in and out with just 3 Infestors, doing some nice
huge
Zerg
economic damage being done here. Absolutely massive. 27 workers killed, and that's what he's doing just to try and stop this push from going forward. A huge stim there from aLive. Ill-advised, didn't really get him all that far, and this entire area has been devastated. There's still a lot of Lings, a lot of Banelings on the map. There's going to be a huge amount of Banelings in a minute, and oh wow, that is really scary. That's 35 Banelings on the map. He's setting up a flanking maneuver here. He knows exactly where his opponent is. He could do huge damage on this ramp if he does it properly.
And the Ultralisks are out. The Ultralisks are out. They're such a good tank. In come the Banelings. There's no way for aLive to maneuver out of this.
There's no escape. There are so many Banelings, and the fungal is huge. Oh, aLive gets decimated by the sandwich there. Doesn't kill the entire army, but that is blunted to say the least. The question is, how much did he lose in the process? Does he have any units left? He actually has a few Ultras moving in, and the fungal goes in, and that looks like it's going to be the cleanup. No Marauders in that composition to help out, so those Ultras will do the job. Reinforcements coming in once again. We need to see more units coming in from Symbol, though. He invested a lot into defending that attack. The Ultras, especially with the tanks and the Marauders, is not going to be enough to defend against this, and aLive has to deal with a huge swell of Lings that are coming in his direction.
76 Zerglings were remaxed there, and they're going to be doing so good against the Marauders. Once again, by the way, in that fight against the 2 Ultralisks, aLive shot one of his own units behind enemy lines. His micro is not quite what it should be here, and Symbol, he finished his crucial upgrades. The timing for aLive was magnificent, but just after he lost that fight, 3 upgrades finished for Symbol, as well as that extra armor upgrade for Ultralisks. So they're super scary right now. They're 3-5.
Certainly they are. A little bit of scouting going on right here with that Viking is going to spot really what he already knows. And the economic situation right now is perhaps the thing which interests me most. The amount of economic damage that was done was pretty significant. And I have to wonder if aLive's growth has now been stunted as a result of losing so many SCVs. And he is on 3 bases right now with 46 SCVs. I mean, it's not a good number.
Yeah, and he also didn't have that crucial 3-3 upgrade yet. He had his 200 supply army with 2-2 upgrades, lost a lot of SCVs, and was just hoping he could make it work. But now that that's not the case, it's going to get increasingly hard for him, as 5 more Ultralists are on the way and joined the 2 already on the field.
Some decent damage being done there to that hatchery. It's driven all of those mining drones away and done some damage as well. And this is a really smart play here by aLive. He knows that his Zerg opponent is spread out across the map. Now drops would be an effective way of playing economic catch-up, and maybe he can secure a 4th base behind that. More Ultralists and Banelings on the way, though. So this is going to be a little bit difficult here for aLive. Let's see some of that legendary stutter step. He doesn't need it. He's got the units for that. And that is not where you want to be dropping your Marines. I'm gonna give him a nickname after this. He's killing so many of his own units. He's going to be renamed Commissar aLive at this point. Get into the fight, or you will be shot for cowardice.
Yeah, Symbol's just drawing further and further ahead. His economy during all this has been very, very good. Yep. He's on 4 bases right now. It almost is getting to the point where aLive cannot just rely on making as much army as possible from these 3 bases.
No, he really
needs
can't.
to think about potentially taking a 4th base behind this, which does seem already quite on the late side.
Yeah, it certainly does, actually. And I believe there's actually a borrowed Ling that's been there for like the past 20 minutes that hasn't been cleaned up and results in not being able to move out another command center. In fact, he doesn't even seem to be building one. He's just pushing on 3 bases continually, but he's not really doing the damage necessary. And this Ultralist count is starting to get pretty scary.
Ooh. Yeah, that's not going to work out.
No, Symbol's all over drop defense right now. Aside from a couple of little mistakes, he has been on top of all of that. Here comes another big push. If this big push gets crushed here, then surely we'll have to see aLive try and take another base, because he can't remax this army at this stage. A good fungal to begin with. That is a big one, a second huge fungal. And here come the Ultralists crashing into this force. There are a lot of Marauders, though. Great transfusers coming in right here from Symbol. And he's evacuating, he's getting the hell down. Oh, it's not going anywhere, says Symbol. The army is airborne, the army is down on the ground. Symbol smashes the assault completely and utterly, and aLive is now in huge trouble. Look at those supplies, 182 to 93. Symbol could just go and win the game right now. He's got the units to make that happen.
Yeah, that was about as massively destructive as possible. Even though aLive didn't have 3-3 yet, I don't think it would have really mattered. Most of the damage there was coming from massive amounts of damage like fungal growth, Baneling detonations, and of course those Ultralists. aLive picks up his orbital and is probably already thinking about the next game.
Yeah, and as well he should be, honestly. Coming back from this position is very difficult indeed. The tanks will hold as much as they can, but he's not mining. He doesn't have any way to remax his army. Symbol is sitting still on 4 bases, and there is the GG! Ladies and gentlemen, Symbol takes the first in this best-of-3 series.
Yeah, very well deserved that by him. Even though he was behind in the early game and we saw him falling behind in supply as well, he excellently bought time until he got those Ultralists out. For a moment it looked really scary. He was just on 3 Infestors with a handful of Zerglings, but with his excellent run-bys of Zerglings, once again able to buy enough time and cut away the foundations under aLive's, well, really under aLive's play. And we saw a similar play from him yesterday against MC, where MC moved out with this army and we said, yeah, okay, that's probably going to be over. Like, Symbol's going to die anytime here. But the Zerglings counterattacking, killing the SCVs or the probes on that 3rd base is really what kept him in this game.
I tend to agree. Some excellent run-bys there, good harassment, and kind of classic Symbol on Daybreak there in terms of the TVZ matchup. Very impressive indeed. Well, aLive is going to be hard-pressed at this point to go forward. That's a lot of momentum that Symbol has. That was a convincing and crushing loss. Not what I would expect from aLive, honestly. He was known for being the guy who could just split in all possible circumstances, and yet, time after time, his army gets clumped up on Daybreak into a choke point and eats fungal growth, the Ultralists cleave, and Baneling detonations, which is the worst thing you want to be taking there. Not good at all.
And of course, the worst thing for his morale of everything, if he even saw it, killing his own tank that early in the game.
That was a confusing one, honestly. I'm not really sure what he was attempting to achieve by that. It's just a misclick, I have to assume. But he's not looking like the aLive that we saw in IPL4, and this is a criticism that some people have leveled at him over the past few months, that he just hasn't been performing.
Yeah, and as a player, you always get these periods every now and then. Pretty much no player is immune to that, where you're saying, like, I know how I used to play. Why isn't the feeling there? You try to find it back, and it's just so hard. And aLive seems to be in that kind of in that situation right now. He knows what he's capable of, but he's having some trouble bringing it to the table. And right now, he's thinking, all right, I just got to refocus myself, because that wasn't his best possible play, and he needs to try and bring that to the table if he wants to take this game.
We've seen a lot better from aLive, certainly, and I would call it the champion's curse very much. You get this big win, and then suddenly you become the most spotlighted player in the world, and everyone tears your builds to pieces. What was successful for you then, 2 months down the line, ceases to be successful because the game has moved on from that point. And it's kind of your fault because you were too good. So everyone wants to kill you. Yeah. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, definitely. That's true. And also, of course, there's always that risk that after you win a tournament, you're like, yeah, I'm the man. So you kind of stop practicing quite as much, or even if you do, you think maybe somehow you get overconfident. And you could also get hung up on the way that you used to play, because as a player who, if you want to be consistent for a very long time, you need to keep renewing yourself. It's an illusion to think that players who are consistently winning, for example, Hyun in the Fight Club, he's not just cruising by on this level that he has and says, yeah, I'm good enough to beat anyone that is being thrown at me. People that are consistent, in fact, it's kind of like ironic, because they are not consistent in the way they play. They are evolving, and that is why they are consistent.
Absolutely, because, of course, Starcraft 2 is a game that continues to evolve. The metagame is continuing to shift, and this